Hi there, my name's Sarah, and today we're going to be drawing these babies. Hands are notoriously a pain to draw, so I'll show you some techniques and tricks I've learned. I'll be using the program Clip Studio Paint, but of course you can use any drawing medium you want. There'll just be one section at the end where I talk about a tip especially for CSP. Let's get started. Hands are complex objects, and like any complex object, the best thing to do is to break it down into simple shapes and use them as guides. Let's start with a top-down view. Feel free to follow along and tag me on social media with your drawing if you do. Here's the hand we're going to draw. I'll show you how to get there step by step. Draw a trapezoid just a bit wider at the top than the bottom. Divide the top into 4 equal parts for the fingers. I'll also add lines for these 3 fingers. We'll get to the pinky and thumb in a bit. Add a curve to the base of these fingers. Now, take the same distance from the bottom of the trapezoid to the top of the curve to get the length of the middle finger. The pointer and ring fingers are just a little shorter. Use the curve as a guide. Add lines as guides for each joint. The bottom segment is the longest, and the other segments get shorter toward the fingertips. The pinky is much shorter. Continue the curved line down into the trapezoid. The top of the pinky comes to around the last joint of the ring finger. The joints, too, are much lower than the other fingers. Finally, bisect the trapezoid, and from there, draw a line coming out about a finger's width. Complete the triangle. The thumb is just shorter than the pointer finger's middle joint. I'll draw a rectangle to represent it. There's only one joint in the thumb, so divide the rectangle in half. To turn this bunch of blocks into a hand, just soften the edges. I like to do this on a separate layer and in a different color from my guides. Add curves to the fingers and taper them just a little toward the fingertips. Remember, the joints are a bit wider than the rest of the finger. Often this is subtle, but some people's hands show the bones more. You can also go extreme for stylized or monstrous fingers. Look at your own hand to get an idea of the more detailed shapes and curves, like your knuckles. Fingernails take up about half of the top joint, starting with a curved base. With short nails, you'll still see the fingertips. The thumb is turned a little so you'll see its nail at an angle. When the hand spreads, the knuckles of the 3 main fingers don't move much. The pinky only moves a little. The thumb, however, has a great deal of movement. Note the small webs of skin that appear between each digit when the hand is spread. The bones of the hand are largely hidden, but depending on the position and tension of the hand, you may see the tendons. Interestingly, the tendons don't follow the line of the bones, but rather come together down at the wrist. You may also see the veins on the back of the hand, especially in warmer temperatures or if the person is very active or tense. From underneath, the hand blueprint is the same, but you'll see lines where the fingers fold, and the padded parts of the palm. Hands look more masculine when you draw thicker fingers, shorter nails, and more details, sometimes with visible hair. Feminine hands are usually more slender and smooth, with longer nails. Those are just guidelines though, everyone's hands are different. You'll see a lot of detail in a hand close up, but if you're drawing a person further away, simple is best, especially for more stylized or cartoony characters. Now that we know the basics, let's change the angle. Perspective is a big subject, but simply put, if you view a cube straight on, it'll look like a square. Turn the cube so you can see 2 faces, and the back edges appear to get smaller as they're now more distant. Turn it to see 3 faces, and they all skew to get smaller in the distance. You can do this with any shape. Here, I've given our starting trapezoid a bit of depth. I'll follow all the same steps, but this time I'll draw the shapes as though they were 3-dimensional blocks in perspective. Pay attention to how the nearer fingers will partially block the ones further back. Draw in the curves of the fingers, and finish off with details. Of course, the hand is rarely just flat. All 4 fingers bend the same way. You can bend at the base knuckle, the finger joints, or both. Notice how it's basically impossible to bend just this top joint on its own. The tendons inside here keep both joints bending together. Strong ligaments at each joint prevent the fingers from bending too far backwards or sideways. The thumb has a much wider range of motion, capable of bending at each joint and even tucking under the hand entirely. The hands are capable of incredibly complex motions, so no wonder they can be intimidating to learn to draw. As with most anatomy, the best way to learn is to study real-life references and practice. Fortunately, most people are lucky enough to have a pair of references right at the end of our wrists. Of course, you're usually drawing with one of those, so what do you do when you need to draw your drawing hand? If you can't quite visualize your other hand in reverse, keep a mirror handy. If you need a specific angle that you can't quite see, you can always look up photo references online, or take a picture to use as your own reference. If you're using Clip Studio Paint, some posable 3D human figures are included. In the Material palette, go to the 3D folder, and choose the Body Type subfolder. Click and drag a model onto your canvas. I'm just going to focus on hands here, but I might do a full tutorial on posing and other 3D features if you guys are interested. Here's a guy I set up to take a look at the hand features. When you have a 3D model selected, you'll see this menu at the bottom. Click the button on the far right. This takes you to the 3D drawing figure section of the Subtool Detail palette. Click Pose. Click and drag on the triangle. At the top left, the fingers are straight and held together, and spread out if you move to the right. The bottom is a fist. These buttons change the type of fist. You can lock the position of the fingers by clicking the chain icon above each one, which allows you to pose them individually. You can also click directly on each finger segment and pose it manually if you wish. The automated hand posing will be applied to both hands by default. If you just want to apply it to one hand, select any part of that hand or arm and it'll be limited to that side only. If you have CSP version 2.0 or higher, clicking this button will bring up an interface where you can capture hand poses using a webcam. It's quite a fun feature. If you want to save a hand pose to reuse later, you can register it as a material. This is the right hand, so I'll click Save Right Hand Pose. Give the pose a name and choose a location. For hand poses, I recommend you open all materials, go to 3D, Pose, and select the hand folder. Click OK. Now you can just drag the hand pose from the material palette onto your model to apply it. There are also a bunch of hand poses you can download from Clip Studio Assets. Once your model's set up, you're ready to use it as a guide for your art. Hopefully with everything I showed you today, you're ready to jump in and draw. I mostly talked about human hands, but you can extend what you've learned to drawing furries, monsters, fantasy folk, original creatures, aliens, and anything else you come up with. That's it for this one. Now get out there and draw hands with confidence. Don't forget to tag me at Ms.RedNebula on Twitter and Instagram and show off your art. I'll see you soon. A big thank you to all of my patrons, with a special shout out to Nova Tier patron Joe C. Phipps. Check out my Patreon if you'd like to help support future content like this.